Alright, so before I start the review, these people recommended I should cover the show, so thanks people. One is an interesting show, and I still have a lot of mixed feelings about it. It was created by Cheesy Hfj in mid-2020, and 5 episodes have come out in total as of today. Instead of just talking about episode 5, I kinda wanted to talk about the entire show so far, since there's a lot I want to say about it. I'll start with the writing and story, as I feel like this is the area where the show struggles the most. Basically, one is about 18 objects who are teleported into a game show and forced to compete for a wish. One of the big twists of this show is that the cast is actually introduced over 3 different episodes, and they don't even pick teams until episode 3. I've heard people say that they like that the cast was introduced this way because it's very different than how most other shows do things, and while that is true, just because something is different or unique doesn't mean it's actually good. There's a reason that almost every show introduces the whole cast in the first episode, and that's because if you keep adding new characters to an ongoing competition, you kind of lose any sense of progression. And what makes this decision even weirder is the fact that each new set of characters is generally worse than the last one. Now I will say that the original group of 6 is pretty solid, except Tomato. They all have defined personalities and interact with each other very well. The first episode had me hooked because of these characters, and honestly, I would have been fine if they stuck with that cast for the whole show. But then the second episode came. I just couldn't really get as invested with the second group as I could with the first group. They all blended together for me, unless I even get started on the third group. Yikes. In terms of challenges, they're nothing really to write home about. They're all pretty surface level, and the only thing that really happens during most of them is half the cast tries to lose so they can be eliminated, while the other half cosplays as Luigi. Get it? Because they win by doing nothing? No? Anyway, I'm never a fan of when characters in object shows are like, oh my god, I hate this show. Like, I want to be eliminated ASAP. Like, literally just kill me. I want to die. It just comes off as annoying and makes it difficult to care about who wins because clearly the actual contestants in the show don't even care who wins. I guess in the context of them being kidnapped and wanting to lose so they can escape, it makes sense, but it doesn't make it any easier to watch. Episodes 3 and 4 are the biggest offenders of this, because the plot of both of them can basically be summed up as Senti does the absolute least so that she can stop being held hostage, while Stone does the absolute most to annoy her. Stone is the only character from the third group that really does anything of note in the story, although, and this is a problem that exists with a lot of the show, we have no clue what in the hey he's doing half the time. I mean, clearly he's trying to help the other contestants in some way, but because he can't talk and everything he does is seemingly random, it just comes off as rude. Like, speaking of rude, I love how just because Stone saved Soda like one time, it apparently justifies trusting him completely over Senti, despite them only meeting Stone like 2 seconds ago. They really did Senti dirty in episodes 3 and 4. While we're talking about story and characters, I think it's important to recognize that one also seems to have themes woven into it. I know, themes in an object show? Whack. Unfortunately, I'm not really the best at identifying themes, so I'm sorry in advance if my interpretation is like kind of bad. So I'd really like to hear from what a lot of you guys, from what you think of the themes, or if there are any themes, because yeah. From what I've gathered from the dialogue and just how certain things have played out in the story, I would argue that the show is going for a theme of like chasing adventure. So basically like challenging yourself to do new things and breaking up the daily grind. I don't know. All I know is that a lot of the characters in the show relent that their real life is like so boring and unenjoyable, and that some of them actually like being in one because it's unpredictable and they want to win their prize, even though they're being held captive. Ultimately, I think it's cool that the show is trying to go for like a deeper message, but I feel like what that message isn't entirely clear, at least to me. This is kind of unrelated, but I really want to talk about what happened with Moldy in episode 5. So, essentially, Moldy's backstory is that they got bitten by something while spelunking before 1, and that's why they have that mole growing on them. So basically, her friend said, let's give her some money so she can get rid of the mold, you know? As any good group of friends would do, right? No. Apparently not to Moldy. She claims that by offering her money to cure a mold that is like slowly killing her, they're just pitying her and trying to humiliate her because she says that she can pay to get rid of the mold herself. Yeah, that in itself is a very interesting take. But then Moldy takes it a step further by actually accepting her friend's money anyway and then using it to buy an expensive TV and new smartphone as payback for trying to humiliate her. I'm like, first of all, what? Petty drama about feeling humiliated because your friends tried to help you and double-crossing them for no reason aside, is the mold that's literally killing her and has consumed half of her body at this point no longer a concern? Like, is getting back at her friends more important than, like, not dying? Even if she did want to do her, like, stupid revenge plan, why not also use your own money that you allegedly have to pay to get the mold removed? Like, what? This whole backstory is, like, so baffling to me, and even though I know we're supposed to understand that Moldy is clearly in the wrong, the mental gymnastics that she goes through are quite unbelievable, to say the least. I mean, are we just left to assume that she's really that dumb? I mean, if the first 4 episodes are anything to go by, she's not dumb. And in fact, she was actually really proactive, and my favorite character up until this episode. Just someone, please, make it make sense. The last thing I want to touch on in terms of story is the reveal at the end of episode 4, where Stone is eliminated before the end of the video, proving that the votes don't actually matter. Oh, and if you didn't get it, they also told you. I have mixed feelings about this. I mean, on one hand, this is a pretty good twist in terms of storytelling. You can't really see it coming since there are no direct hints about the votes being fake, although it does make sense with everything that we've been shown so far, and explains why we've never seen the vote counts. But here's my problem with it. If you're gonna be a viewer vote show, then be a viewer vote show. I don't like it when shows ask for the audience's opinion about who should be eliminated, and then ignore the results when they're not what they wanted. One example that comes to mind is BFB, where Loser and Spongy got eliminated by popular vote, but then they get to come back because... I don't know, just because they're Loser and Spongy? My opinion is, if you don't want to listen to the audience, then don't bait them into thinking they have any say in what actually happens in the show. That just comes off as disingenuous to me. But like I said, I do understand it from a storytelling standpoint, so I guess it's fine. I just didn't think it was the amazing twist that everyone says it is. Okay, so now that I spent an ungodly amount of time talking about the writing, let's talk about the other aspects of the show. First of all, major props in the music department. Honestly, the best background music I've ever heard in an Object show. Each track has that kind of mesmerizing and unnerving vibe to them, which fits in with the show perfectly. Plus, it's all original OSTs. Seriously, check out the playlist for the show, you won't be disappointed. The backgrounds are pretty great too, especially the city area in episode 1, like, wow, good job. The animation and voice acting are also pretty good, although not all the characters have voice actors, so there's that. Overall, I think that 1 excels when it comes to the details, but misses the mark when it comes to, like, the bigger picture. The music, backgrounds, animation, and even some of the themes are all pretty interesting, and the show has neat little continuity moments, like connecting the OG6 to whatever they were doing before they got teleported, showing the whipped cream at the end of episode 1, and the white eyes in the outro that symbolize your knowledge of fake votes. Unfortunately, the actual story, characters, and challenges just aren't it for me. And it's a shame because there's parts of each that I actually like. The setup for the competition is interesting, but the episodes almost seem to go backwards in terms of progression. The original 6 characters are all pretty cool, except Tomato, but everyone added in episodes 2 and 3 just seem like afterthoughts. Having characters try to lose the challenge instead of win is an interesting concept, but they don't really do anything that great with it. Still, I do like 1 on some level. I think it has a lot of potential, but I think it needs to establish a more consistent tone, flesh out more of the characters, and try to make better challenges. Until then, there's just way too many problems for me to give it a positive rating, sadly. So with that being said, I'm going to give the series so far a 5 out of 10. But I'll say this, if I were only to rate the first episode, it'd probably be like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Just saying. I really want to hear what you guys think about this show, because even writing this still, I don't feel like I'm 100% confident with my rating. So please do tell me what y'all think. And thanks for sitting through this mess, guys. Have a great day.